Alright, so we're back here with the T4. Last time I put it away, I dropped it from about knee height, and unfortunately, one of the front shocks exploded. So, I needed to find some new shocks for it, and I have these Yeah Racing shocks. They're pretty good. They're all the same size though, so when I put the rears on here, there was just, the ride height was too low. So I went digging through my parts and I found these T-Max shocks, but they're way too stiff and I don't like the springs. So I knew I had some extra Proline shocks, so I went around and found those. And I've got this fastening kit here to mount it up. Unfortunately, the previous owner kind of screwed up these pillow pivot ball holes, rod ends, I'm sorry, and it's kind of loose. As you can see, these are from Element, but they fit, so I'm gonna see if they'll hold up. Probably won't, actually. So I'll have to look for a pivot ball to go in the rod end, but I'm gonna go ahead and get these Proline shocks on here. Alright, so I got the Proline shocks on there. It's looking pretty good. Feels good too, feels normal. The ride height is as it should be. So that's cool. Now I just have to figure out why I'm not getting any throttle. So, gonna mess with that. Take this out to the track. So I just got the ESC calibrated, and I went on YouTube and looked up RC Madness's Hobbywing recalibration video, and it was pretty straightforward. Obviously, this is Reedy, but it's the same as Hobbywing, so it worked out. Basically, I just held the button down when I turned it on, then pressed it while it was in neutral, pressed it again while it was in full throttle, pressed it again while it was in full brake, and then it was reset. It's pretty simple. So he does a pretty good job at explaining that. So RC Madness recalibration will get you what you need to recalibrate these Hobbywing ESCs. So now that this is running and functioning, I'm going to test it out on the track. One of the other things that I needed to fasten up was the pivot ball on the servo horn. I had to put a nut on here because it was just wobbling. So that's good. Now I've got a more solid steering. I think that's it. We'll see how these rear pivot balls and the rod ends of the shocks hold up. I've got a little washer to prevent it from coming off. And the pivot ball, I found the biggest pivot balls I had to fit in there. They're still a little loose, but they don't come off this way. So that's how I mounted it. With that washer, it should be all right. These are the stock pivot balls up in the top. They fit fine. So we're back here with Joe's. I had to see about what was going on with the transmission because the differential was still giving us trouble. And after some more discussion and he ordered some parts, we've decided what we're gonna do. So he upgraded to this metal gear here, and since then it had been giving him issues, so he decided to get the plastic one to see if that would be the resolve to the issue. But he also got a different gearbox to see if we could fit the DR10 diff in and put it on the chassis with this case, but unfortunately the holes just don't line up. It's wider on top than it is here, so this idea won't work. So essentially just gonna have to rebuild the diff with this plastic gear and hope that the tunability works. So I'm gonna have to pull this apart, clean all the parts, rebuild it with this one, get the transmission installed, and test it. That's actually pretty clean. I think I'm just going to swap it over. So here's the metal one, and here is the plastic one together, and I already spun it, and you can just feel how smooth it is. It's not gritty at all in any way, shape, or form, and it feels tight too. So now I think we can start to mess with Joe's T4 and have some progress here, because it just really did not feel good at all with this metal gear here. So let's get this differential installed back in the transmission, get the transmission installed back on the chassis, and then get this T4 out for testing. All right, so it's all back together. Let's hope that that alleviated any of the issues. I'm gonna go ahead and leave this cover off because we don't have the other covers to go with it, so it's just gonna fill up with dirt. So I'll just leave that off. But yeah. They're looking good. Mine looks a lot better with these shocks on it. Mine's obviously got a higher center of gravity. But yeah, the T4s I think are ready for testing and should be good to go from here. The only thing I need to do for mine is find the 2 screws that go on the top of that rear motor guard. I just don't have them in my Team Associated stash, so I'm gonna have to look for something else. But yeah, so let's get these out to the track and test them. All right, so here we are. It's a little wet, but it's drying up, so I think the track will be nice. I already asked Joe's permission. I'm going to test this out on the driveway to make sure that the transmission works before we take it to the track. And excuse me, I'm going to drive this one too, just to be sure that the steering adjustment I made is proper. Should be. So yeah, let's get this one turned on and see how the transmission works. It's definitely still slipping. So I'm gonna have to tighten that before we continue. So let me go grab the proper tool and get this thing tightened up and retry it. Other than that, I don't know what to say. If it doesn't work after an adjustment from here, I don't know. So it will go, but if you give it full throttle, right away it slips. But if you let on slowly, you can get the speed out of it. It will be fast. All right, let me go get this tool. All right, so I just took it upstairs and got the differential tightened. I tightened it pretty hard, not all the way, but I tightened it down pretty hard. So let's see how that does, and if it did any difference, and whether or not we know we can tune this with the new part. Oh, that's definitely tire spinning. It didn't feel locked up, but it definitely was tighter. Oh, that's actual response. To me, I say that's tire spinning. That's throttle response through the transmission. Just because So I think this can be loosened, and I think you can get some tunage out of this now that we're getting throttle response. You see the way that just turned around? So I think we're going to be able to run this. Joe, I think we've solved the transmission issues here. All right, success. So this can be taken down to the track. We'll test it out on some jumps. That's awesome, finally. I'm really sick of chasing this thing. It's nice to see it moving. It's fast. So this will be some nice competition. Still going down, Joe. But we got throttle response. So there's some success. All right, we're down to the track. It's the perfect conditions for running. I found that this had too much power, to be honest. So we'll see how it does on the dirt. The tires were just spinning, but that's also a good thing because we know the differential works. So we'll know that this can be tuned, and we'll see how much we'll need to, back out on that screw to get this to work proper. But for now, it runs nice. I tested mine and it seems to do quite well. I like the way it handles. It's not too powerful like this one. And I think that the low center of gravity has this one almost like it's in the ground as opposed to on the ground like this one. So that's just kind of the differences I noticed. Another thing I did for Joe was I put the nuts on the back of this. That looks a lot better. Not that it was necessary because there was threads through the carbon fiber, but that was just something I wanted to mention. So yeah, let's get this one tested. I'm not used to this car, and I also don't want to break it, so I'm gonna be taking it easy. Even though that was a little light jump, that traveled pretty well. Oh, this is gonna be a nice competition. This car is nice. It's hard to drive and record. I want to hit that jump. Yeah, this thing is really nice. Eesh. Do another couple laps and then drive it off the camera. Oh, it's hard to control. Do one lap and then start driving off camera. Oh. Let's start over. Yeah, so we'll need to loosen the diff a little bit, definitely. And turn the sensitivities down with this new servo and these brushless systems. He'll have to tune it to his radio. Alright, one more lap. Yeah, it's really hard to drive with this sensitivity here. So yeah, we know this car works. We know it works well. Started off It's just a chassis, and now it's a functioning car. We've got other parts too to finish with it. Anything else that he needs, he's got. So I'm gonna stop driving this before I break something or get it any dirtier than it needs to be. And I'm gonna take mine for a loop around the track. Excuse me. So yeah. We'll call it success here. And we'll say this one's ready to hand back. Alright, so this one's ready for testing. I think it's going to do pretty well with the different offset. It's narrower in the rear. I'm happy about the shocks, and I'm glad that I noticed that loose part on the steering. Ooh, let's go back around. This one's much less sensitive, so it's a little bit to get used to. It feels a little daintier too. Joe's truck's definitely heavier. But I'm not as afraid to drive this one because if it breaks, it's mine. The previous owner, when they were lining up the spoiler on the body, they made it off center. I'll never be able to unnotice that, but whatever. So yeah, this is perfect. So this is going to be fun. Seeing the two different approaches to the stadium truck from Team Associated. One that's the Team Factory with the low center gravity and all the hop-ups, and then an RTR one with some hop-ups. So yeah, this thing runs pretty well, I'd say. Oh, I forgot to put those screws on the motor mount. Motor guard, I mean. Oh man. Couple laps with this and then drive it off the camera. Glad I decided not to drive Joe's more, because the last thing I want is to break it before we get to even use them. This one definitely is much lighter and daintier, like I said. Joe's is way more planted and heavy. Eesh. I want to hit that jump one more time. Nice. Yeah, I would get more driving footage. It's just hard to do it the way feel comfortable doing it. I gotta look into getting some sort of mount. So these Proline shocks are doing us good. BRPM, arms, and bumper. I think we'll be nice and protected from anything crazy. Oh. Oh, missed it. My phone's about to die. Uh-oh. I think that was just crap in the gear mesh. I really don't know. There's a clicking now. I'm gonna investigate that before I drive this any further. It's always something. So I drove it around a little bit, and the noise seems to have gone away. I also kind of inspected the drive shafts and the differentials, and you can see that the diff cups are a little loose in there. So I gotta look into my own transmission here. It's kind of hard to see because, but yeah, there seems to be no issues in the performance. The noise is there a little bit. Maybe it's the dog bones bouncing back and forth. I really don't know. Obviously you can see some dirt in the mesh there. So, I don't know. I'm gonna continue to drive it until this battery dies or I break something, and I'll report back. Alright, so we know that these trucks work. Joe's transmission is solved, and mine works with the new shocks and that tightened up steering. I hope that noise that happened after that rear impact doesn't amount to anything, but we'll see if anything changes in performance. So you can look forward to seeing these two racing soon. Getting ready to hand this one back to Joe so he can get it fine-tuned to his radio.